Welcome everyone to Buddha Center. Let's begin by setting the excellent motivation in the universe, as we always do, which is bodhicitta, as defined by Lord Maitreya in the incredible text, the Abhisama Alamkara, the ornament for clear realization. Bodhicitta, again, is defined as the aspiration to achieve the highest enlightenment for the benefit of or for the sake of all sentient beings. So let's just sit with that for a moment and think to ourselves, may I become a Buddha. May I become the most reliable guide, the most happy guide in the universe for the sake of all sentient beings, to benefit everyone in the universe, remembering those two qualities of this mind that aspires to enlightenment, the actual object of attainment, which is Buddhahood, and then the intended objective, which is for the sake of all sentient beings. Your intention to achieve that objective is to be able to benefit every single sentient being in the universe without bias whatsoever. Say to ourselves, we're here tonight. I'm giving this teaching. You're listening to this teaching. We're going through all of these different rituals and prayers in order to do one very, very specific thing, which Arya Nagarjuna in the commentary on the awakening mind says is the highest ideal of the Mahayana. And that's this idea of wanting to eventually, once we mature ourselves enough, wanting to become a Buddha day and night for the sake of everyone, to help everyone. So let's just say this is why we're doing this tonight, even if it's contrived, even if we're just really not feeling it, even if we have so many people we find difficult and couldn't even imagine wanting them to have happiness and be free from suffering. The more we give our mind the medicine that says, may I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, the more those layers of constriction are removed that keep us from realizing our highest potential when we have these kind of minds of bias that are unwilling to, because someone's difficult, see them as a being who should be loved by me, see them as a being who deserves my compassion, see them as a being who I want to have happiness and the causes of happiness, and I want them to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. This change from where my mind's at to a mind like that will only take place through the stages that we're looking at, will only take place through practicing things like the equalizing and exchanging self with others practice for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment. And the thing that we're currently studying, the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment. This change will only take place through practicing it, through realizing that it makes the most sense to develop it. It's not going to come out of nowhere. It's only going to spring from causes. All causes, all results are concordant on their cause, are concordant with their causes. We have to create minds that are similar to the actual mind we want to have ripen. And we do it in stages of loosening up our mind to the point where we're able to send it towards every single sentient being in the universe without bias in terms of our intention of wanting them to have happiness and be free from suffering, and our goal, which is to be a cause for that to happen. And the only way that we can do that, the only way we can really cause that to happen is to become a Buddhist. That's the only way we'll know what each and every single sentient being in the universe needs. It's the only way we'll know exactly how to help them. It's the only way we'll know what to say, when to say it, how to say it, who to say it to, who's an appropriate vessel to say the things that I want to say. We'll only know that in a complete way as Buddhas. So imagine being so constricted and so unable to help and then wanting to help everyone. We come to the conclusion that we must become Buddhas. But that conclusion is only made as we discover equanimity, as we discover sentient beings are our mother and their kindness, and as we discover this wish to repay their kindness, and discover that we really find them all lovable, and discover that they're all, objects of our compassion, meaning discover that we want every single being in the universe to be free from suffering, and then discover that we want to take it upon ourselves the task of making sure that happens, and then recognizing the only being in the universe that's qualified to do that is a Buddha. So just by saying, we're here tonight in order to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. We're putting powerful imprints in our mind that are actually in direct opposition with our self-cherishing attitude. And the more that we do that, and the more that we tell ourselves that we want to be different, we want to be a being that cherishes others more than themselves, that's what a bodhisattva is, the more our minds will turn towards things that are like the ways bodhisattvas think, and eventually our minds will be perfect mental bases for the arisal of actual uncontrived bodhicitta that's spontaneous, that's always there, that even if you're distracted, it says, you still have this main mind that's humming, saying, may I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. It's really just this mind becomes the mind of a being who moves from helping to helping to helping to helping, and is doing so and progressing on his or her own path in order to become the greatest helper that exists in the world. So this is why we're doing what we're doing here tonight. So we say to ourselves, even if it sounds outlandish, that, oh, somebody like me, who has so many defilements, who has, I know my own mind, who has so much attachment and has levels of aversion and has this ignorance that's just always seeing things as apprehending them to be intrinsically existent, and has some doubts sometimes about cause and effect, or overlooks cause and effect, from going, it seems so like unrealistic sometimes for someone, like me to think, oh, I'm going to become a Buddha. Yeah, I'll become a Buddha. I'm going to become Superman. I'm going to become, a superhero somehow. But when we study the teachings of Buddha, we find out that this isn't something that we just come to believe because it's magical. We come to find out that we have the ingredients within our minds that make Buddhas. We have a mind, so we start there. That's an ingredient that you need. We have a mind that's got some good things in it and got some bad things in it. That's most minds that aren't enlightened. And the good things we can ripen to their greatest level, and the bad things we can eradicate. And the reason that we can do this is because our mind is empty of intrinsic existence, and all causes create results. And ignorance, there's an opposition to ignorance. That's a mind that has an apprehension of object that actually tallies with reality. So we know that we can get rid of ignorance. We know that we've done so in the past. We know that we didn't know the alphabet, and now we know the alphabet. We had an ignorance of the alphabet, as Khensur Geshe Wangdak Rinpoche always said, and we eradicated that. We had the ignorance of how to add 2 + 2, and we eradicated that. And likewise, we have an ignorance that apprehends things as being truly existent. And when we apply the medicine of the wisdom that recognizes that things are not truly existent, are not inherently existent, then we can eradicate the unknowing of the nature of reality. When we start to recognize that the self-cherishing attitude is the losing attitude, and the cherishing attitude is the winning attitude, and that cherishing others because of interdependence makes more sense and tallies with reality, then we can start to shuck off the things that don't make any sense and move our minds closer to their fully matured state. So we're not saying, may I become this thing that's not obtainable, may I become Superman and fly tomorrow. We're saying, may I, from this place that I'm sitting right now, be able to evolve my mind just as the Buddhas have done in the past. Just like they started with the material of a mind that, like mine, with afflictive obstructions and obstructions to omniscience, all the defilements of attachment and hatred and ignorance, all that stuff. And they figured out how to apply opposing forces to the negativities, the kind of two masterminds that started all, the self-grasping ignorance and the self-cherishing attitude. And we see all these offshoots that happen from the self-grasping ignorance of this kind of gross self-cherishing attitude that comes off of it, and attachment and all these things that come off of it. And if we recognize that there are opposing forces to those things that are not right, and we can develop them in our minds, we can see how it's possible for this kind of covered diamond that we have, this mind of ours that has the potential just to be perfect if it was just undirtied, or this golden mind that has the potential to glow and shine if it just wasn't so dirty and clean, it was cleaned up. We start to see that this is a realistic goal to have. It's a bit away, and it's going to it's going to require an immense amount of causes and conditions. But the good news is that we can be the master creator of our own fate. There's no one out there that's causing all of the things in our life to happen. We previously created causes for all of the things in our life to happen. So when we experience happiness, it means that we engaged in some sort of virtue in the past. And when we experience suffering, it means that we engaged in some sort of non-virtue in the past. And when we look at the kinds of experiences of happiness that we have and we magnify them, we see that the greatest amounts of happiness that we've ever had were actually the suffering of change. But then when we see that subtle type of suffering, which we think is happiness, as suffering, then we go back to just what Buddha said, and we say that, well, all results depend upon causes. All phenomena arise from causes. The essence of dependent origination mana. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of causes as well are taught by the great seer. So we know that contaminated happiness, which is the suffering of change, comes about from a cause. Because when we look at the what am I trying to say? All composite things are impermanent. All contaminated things are of the nature of suffering. All phenomena are the nature of emptiness and selflessness. Transcending sorrow is peace. That's called the Four Seals, by the way. My mind just froze up on the basic Buddhist concept that makes you a Buddhist tenet holder. Called the Four Seals. The seals in what is a Buddhist teaching and what is not a Buddhist teaching according to a Buddhist tenet holder, someone who says, I philosophically hold the view of Buddhism. Well, if you do, you at a minimum starting level must say, all composite things are impermanent, all contaminated things are of the nature of suffering, all phenomena are the nature of emptiness and selflessness, or just selflessness. Transcending sorrow is peace. Nirvana is peace. This is kind of seals it in. So if I say, okay, if I start to discover that even the things that I think are happy aren't really happy, they're suffering, I start to get real subtle about my, wanting to have real happiness versus like fake happiness. I come to look and say, oh, it says, oh, all contaminated things are the nature of suffering. And it says that everything that comes about is through cause and effect. All impermanent things, we know that if it's impermanent, it necessarily has a cause and it is a result. So then we say, okay, if it's impermanent, which a contaminated happiness is, so good, okay, so we know that it's caused, then we know that if we extinguish the cause for contaminated happiness and we make the cause for uncontaminated happiness, then there's a kind of happiness out there that isn't contaminated. Nirvana is peace. So we have to figure out how to get the nirvana is peace part out of this. We can by relying on cause and effect. Again, we just have to make sure that we all remember none of this is magic. We're relying on cause and effect to make everything happen. So I thought, it important we set the motivation of bodhicitta, and I just wanted to talk about a couple of things before we get started, before we invoke the merit field and bring all sentient beings here. Actually, I changed my mind. We'll invoke the merit field and bring all sentient beings here. And then I want to talk a little bit about the importance of this day and the importance of this kind of week and moving forward this year and so forth. And then we'll get into the teaching proper and the Heart Sutra and so forth. So just imagine that all of the holy enlightened beings are in the space in front of you. You said, I will become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. Imagine those beings who've achieved that state that you're wishing to achieve are in the space in front of you, saying, hey, come on, you can do it. I had a mind like you, and now I don't, because I relied upon causes that aren't contaminated and achieved a nirvana that's peace. And you're relying upon things that are contaminated, and contaminated means that it's held by the afflictions. And if you are held by your afflictions, you are in samsara. And samsara is misery because you don't have any control. You are not in the driver's seat in terms of what, I'm not in the driver's seat of whether there's a tree that's going to fall down and kill me in 5 minutes. I'm not in that driver's seat. And not being free is misery. I'm not in that driver's seat. So we can transcend the state of cyclic existence and suffering altogether. We just have to create the causes that are necessary. So we see these beings that have done it. We see these beings that have created those causes, have taken their kind of Buddha nature and then ripened it. Meaning, like, I have Buddha nature, I have a dirty mind, meaning I have a mind that's defiled, I have a mind that's contaminated. But I have this mind that can proliferate, that can mature. And I have a mind that's empty of intrinsic existence. And my mind will eventually, once it's fully matured, be the wisdom Dharmakaya of the Buddha. And my mind, once it's fully matured, the qualities of it will be the natural Dharmakaya of the Buddha. Me as a Buddha. I. It won't be like him or her. It'll be I. The Buddha, I don't know, probably not in this lifetime. But right, you'll have a name when you're about to become a Buddha, and you'll be then like Buddha, I don't know, Buddha Alessandra or Buddha Karen or Buddha John or, Buddha Michael or Buddha Prasad, whoever, all my friends, will eventually, have a name, and eventually we'll be on the 10th Bodhisattva level and achieve a Vajra-like meditation. The last moment, we're in like not a Buddha, body, or not a Buddha position. And then boom, we'll be enlightened, just like Buddha Shakyamuni transcended the 10th Bodhisattva ground. So we're imagining those beings who pulled that off in the space in front of us, encouraging us and saying, hey, we did this and you can, just like us. And we're saying, may I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. We said, okay, there's the Buddha. That's who I want to become. Why am I wanting to become the Buddha? I'm wanting to become the Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings without bias. So imagine that we invite all sentient beings here to be our guests, beginning with friends, those close to us, that we consider close to us, and then bringing those who we feel are strangers, and then bringing those that we feel kind of furthest from, those difficult people, and you could even say enemy at the most strongest sense. Imagine you're inviting all those different sentient beings, and then after you're done getting those folks that you know who they are, even strangers, like strangers on the road, you've seen them, or you kind of know who they are, even birds that fly by and so forth, or chipmunks. Those are kind of strangers. You don't know their family, but you see them as sentient beings. Sometimes we forget that every single sentient being in the universe is our family. When we see a worm, if we practice these things right, Pabonga Rinpoche says, we'll say, hello, mother. So yeah, we're really, really trying to change our perspective altogether. So we're inviting all sentient beings here, and we're imagining then hell, hungry ghost, animal, human, demigods, and gods. So we're imagining that we bring every single sentient being here, and they experience this like kind of inspiration. They see these beings who have so much love and compassion, this perfected love and compassion looking into their eyes. It says like a mother is looking at her only child, ready to just leap and help, ready to just give whatever instruction is necessary, whatever body movement is necessary in order to bring sentient beings to happiness in a place that's free from suffering. And this is why we do this. We invite sentient beings because we're trying to ripen our mind. We're trying to become the greatest helpers in the universe, and that's a Buddha. And the way we become the greatest helpers in the universe is we get our minds used to helping. We get our minds used to saying, okay, come on, person I find difficult. Okay, it doesn't feel good in my mind, but okay, person I find difficult. Look, there's a being who had a disturbed mind like you, and you make my mind disturbed, so they had a disturbed mind like me. And may we both figure out how to do whatever these holy beings did in order to really have a realistic, natural relationship, and that's a relationship of caring, of kindness, and so forth. So we're trying to just create this mental basis. We're just trying to change. We're trying to do something that's extraordinary, not normal, out of the norm. The norm is to just get mad, shake our fists, and say they're bad and I'm good, and this is my team, this is their team. but something that's extraordinary, something that's different, something that ordinary people can't do, is to look at a situation in a totally different way. And that's looking it through the eyes of what Buddha came to teach us. So imagine we bring all the beings here, all the enlightened beings are in the space in front of us. Okay, so what I was getting at is that today specifically is called Zamling Chisang. We're saying Universal Prayer Day. You could say World Offering, Incense Offering Day. This is fine also. But I'll tell you a little bit about the origin of it. And then also there's the other significant thing. So today's celebrating on the Tibetan calendar, the Zamling Chinsang, which is the Universal Prayer Day. And what it's really commemorating is the pacification or the peace that Guru Rinpoche, Guru Padmasambhava, was able to bring into Tibet. So when we look at the history, we know it's around 8th century. King Trisen Detsen, after King Susan Gonpo, began to want to establish a monastery, establish Sai Monastery by inviting Chandrashita, who then came with Guru Rinpoche, Acharya Chandrashita, who then came with Guru Rinpoche, with Master Padmasambhava. And Master Padmasambhava was known for his practice of high tantras and had very, very sophisticated understandings of the law of cause and effect. I think it's important to tell this story in this way, because a lot of times when you hear about Guru Rinpoche, it sounds like Harry Potter. This is relevant in my mind right now because Lori and I are teaching a young person, Harry Potter, a young Tibetan girl in France, very, very lovely young lady. And she's learning English and we're reading Harry Potter. And there's a lot of magic and a lot of things that happen and mystical things. And what I want to make sure that everyone knows is that all phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. There's not things that, are working out of the realm of cause and effect. Now, there's folks like Guru Rinpoche who have a very sophisticated understanding of the law of cause and effect and have a very sophisticated understanding of dependent origination, the most subtle levels, the most subtle workings of dependent origination, and know what to say, when to say it, who to say it to, how to say it. And like the who to say it to is like, are these beings ready to hear what I have to say and will this be helpful? So if you have clairvoyance, like Guru Rinpoche, they say is a Buddha, but even if it's just a Mahasiddhi, someone with incredible realizations, tantric realizations, if even if it's like this, you can work at a much more subtle level. And you can then, so what happened is, before I go on any further, is Guru Rinpoche is known for coming to bring peace to Tibet, to pacify the forces that were against the Dharma and so forth. But the way that such a thing can happen is out of great compassion, out of an understanding of the subtle workings of cause and effect, out of an understanding of the subtle workings of dependent origination, out of the understanding of the emptiness of intrinsic existence, which makes things possible, which makes things not intrinsically existent, which makes angry people not intrinsically angry. People have Buddha natures, angry spirits or opposing forces that are sentient beings have Buddha nature and can mature. So if you, in Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, and Lord Atisha emphasizes the need to get clairvoyance. And it's because if you don't have clairvoyance, how do you really know what to say, when to say it, who to say it to, how to say it, etc.? So Guru Rinpoche, Master Padmasambhava, had the highest realizations possible and knew how exactly to turn harmful minds to minds that stopped harm And we know that when we look at nonviolence from the Buddhist perspective, ahimsa, we look at non-harm, it has in the cradle of it compassion, which means not wanting beings to have suffering, wanting them to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. This idea of non-harm is a very active state that's going on when we speak of it, nonviolence, when His Holiness is speaking of it. In the Buddhist tradition, when we look at the mental factor of non-harm, it has as its basis compassion. So somehow Guru Rinpoche knew how to transform someone's mind, like my mind needs to be transformed. So Khensur Geshe Wangdak came and said stuff, and it's taken, a little bit of time, but it's slowly sinking in. Well, Guru Rinpoche had just the right vessels at that moment who were jerky, but he knew exactly what to say, when to say it, how to say it, and who to say it to in such a way that he could unjerk them quicker than I've been able to unjerk, because they had the conditions to unjerk quicker than I did. So really, don't make this stuff like, oh, and then Dumbledore, if you know Harry Potter, came and made his wand and subdued the evil spirits in Tibet. And then my Lama, my teacher, can wave his stick or take his mala and put it on my head and subdue all of the problems that I've ever had. Yeah. Most of us don't have the luxury of a mind that's just perfectly ready to transform in a moment like that. But luckily, we have a mind that will transform. So Guru Rinpoche came in the 8th century, and with Acharya Chandrashita, they formed Sai Monastery, the first monastery in Tibet. And we're here today hearing about this incredible Nalanda tradition because of the kindness of Acharya Chandrashita, who is extremely old for those times, to go into Tibet and risk his life in order for us to get this tradition. And Guru Rinpoche, extremely kind, in order to pass along these very secret teachings, and in order for the Mulla Sarvastivadi tradition in Tibet to really, really be fully ripened, so that the Mahayana vehicle in its fullest state of the perfection vehicle and the tantric vehicle would come to be held very securely in Tibet. So anything that we hear about sutra or tantra within this tradition, we owe to the kindness of these two individuals, Guru Rinpoche and Acharya Chandrashita. They call Acharya Chandrashita the great abbot Chandrashita. This is an epithet that you can use for, instead of Lopun, which is Acharya, which means master, Chandrashita, you can say the great abbot, Keichen, Shewatso, the great abbot Chandrashita. Shewatso is the Tibetan for Chandrashita. So anyway, so this today is a celebration of Guru Rinpoche's making peace in Tibet. And we know that the way that each and every single one of us can make peace in our world is by, I was just speaking with someone, teaching some introduction to Buddhism today. The contribution that we can really begin making is to abandon harm. And what the Buddha taught about abandoning harm at the very beginning, the first level, we find it in the teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity, is the ethics which abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities. So I think that if we'll get into the next part, students of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, students of Buddha Shakyamuni, students of Khensur Geshe Wangdak Rinpoche, many of you I see on this screen, then the first thing the Buddha said is that we should change the way that we're moving this thing, our body, and moving this thing, our mouth. And we find that when we look at the ethics which abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities, we find the guidelines that the Lama Tsongkhapa says in the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment. These aren't all the non-virtues, obviously, but these are some core things that the Buddha found were so important that he shared these 10 things, 10, with the world right away. And that was, first of all, with our body, we shouldn't kill, we shouldn't steal, and we shouldn't engage in sexual misconduct. So obvious things that harm other beings, and abandoning harm. This is where we start as Buddhists. When we look at what the Buddha stated in the Vinaya Sutra, abandon evil, Engage in perfect virtues, subdue your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Abandoning evil, we begin. How do we make peace? How do we contribute to world peace? What is our aspiration? What's our prayer for the day? What could we offer? And I'll get into that in a moment too. We could offer non-harm, ahimsa, a non-harm because we want other beings to be free from suffering. And then we can build that just non-harm into this beautiful mind that says, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to make them free from suffering. So we abandon those three things of killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. And then of the speech, there's four things we screw up a lot. And the speech is a mess. And they all kind of, I was talking with this young Tibetan girl today, they all, and her mother, and they all kind of compound on one another when we look at the non-virtues of the speech. Just think about it. Think about it with me. First is the non-virtue of lying. Then the non-virtue of harsh words, saying something harsh to someone. Then the non-virtue of divisive speech, saying things divisive. It can go the other way. Divisive speech, harsh words. And then saying things that are gossipy, things that have no meaning, talking meaninglessly with your so-called friends that are really probably bad friends when we analyze them, because they're really are they on the road to happiness or not? We look at these things, and when we get around folks, it's when we're alone, we need to watch our mind, and then when we're with others, we need to watch our mouths and our body, and our mind is the thing that's driving it all. So we need to be able to watch our mind if we want our body to do some good stuff in our speech too. So just look at how this works. We're hanging around folks, we're gossiping a little bit, and we're like, oh, I really don't really like so-and-so. Oh, really? You don't like so-and-so? Okay, so we went from gossip. Now we've moved into a little bit of divisive speech. We're starting to, I'm saying, I really don't like so-and-so. Oh, why don't you, or someone's saying that to me, however it goes. And now slowly, a person who is compatible with someone, or someone who is already not compatible with someone, is less compatible than they were the moment that I started moving my lips, or they move their lips at me, and then I'm not as compatible. I think this is what divisive speech, dividing people, making incompatible people more incompatible, and making compatible people incompatible, dividing people and being part of it. So we're gossiping and we're saying, oh, did you hear about so-and-so? No, I didn't hear about so-and-so. Oh my gosh, I don't think I should like so-and-so either. Well, I mean, and then like, well, you know what I heard? Okay, now lying is going to creep in a little bit. The exaggeration, as Laurie was saying to the young girl today, exaggeration's lying. Well, I heard that they did this, that, and the other thing. Just putting a little bit of like extra shade on it. Now, just with your speech, you're just fully engaged in all of these non-virtues to the point where if the person then comes into the room, what's going to happen? Some harsh words. Get out of here. We don't like you. And now you've completed all four negative things the Buddha said to not do under any circumstances. Wow. We think, oh, I'm a Buddhist. They're a this. Too bad they're not all Buddhists. But the Buddha said, abandon evil. Are we doing that? Are we making people incompatible who are compatible more incompatible, people who aren't compatible more incompatible? What are we doing? Are we gossiping and talking about useless things? Or are we moving towards a place where we can be the most helpful guides in the universe? This is how we bring about peace. If I'm acting in this way, if I'm not lying, if I'm not killing anyone, people are going to feel safe around me. If I'm not stealing from them, they're going to feel safe around me. Taking their partners, they're going to feel safe around me. If I'm not lying, I'm someone who can be trusted. If I'm not, saying divisive things, and I'm not talking behind your back, probably. And if I'm not saying, harsh words, people are going to want to be near me. And if I'm not gossiping, then I'm not setting us all up for more suffering. I'm not handing you suffering. Here, let's get ready. Here, let me talk to you so I can hand you an opportunity to have your mind just flood with non-virtue. Are we handing everyone around us the opportunity for their minds to flood with non-virtue or virtue? These are the things that we ask ourselves. Are we Dharma practitioners? Aren't Dharma practitioners? We love to talk about winds and channels and energy and chakras and stuff like that. But really, are we able to do this? Are we able to just stop shouting? Are we able to just have compassion for a moment and say, oh, wow, put ourselves in other people's shoes? And then the sinkers of the mind, the three of the mind that we do, that complete this package in its fullest extent. First, coveting others' things, saying, wow, I should have those things. They shouldn't have them. I should be the one who has those. It should be me that has it. And then harmful intent. You see how these can work together. Oh, I hope that that person loses everything that they have. Well, if I can't have it, they shouldn't have it. Do we do that? Why are they the one? I worked so hard all my life. I worked so many hours, and I worked 1,000 hours for every 1 hour they work, and they're rich and I'm poor. I should be the one who has that. They shouldn't be the one who gets that. I'm always the one who doesn't get what I should get. Doesn't the world see I should be the one getting what everyone else gets and I don't get what they get? I'm a victim. I'm the one who should have the things. They shouldn't have the things. Why is that nasty rich person always get the things? They're not even nice. I should get the things. I hope they lose their things. I hope his stock goes down. See where I'm going with this? I hope they get put in jail. I'm a Buddhist. I want world peace. Really? I'm not trying to be like standing on some throne, like, oh, I don't do these things. I'm saying, look at how my mind works. Look at how your mind works. Look at how we think. Look at what we say we are. Look at who we really are. That's what the Buddha came to tell us. And this is like Venerable Rabina Corton. Buddhism isn't about flowers and cherries and the sky being filled with rainbows. It's about tasting your own vomit. That's how you want to get out of cyclic existence. You think it tastes real bad. Look at what we do. And then this wrong view, the main wrong view, not believing in karma and its results. Oh, I believe in karma. You must be crazy. Well, then why are you gossiping all the time? Why do you want other people's stuff? Why do you hope bad things happen to people? You said that you want compassion, non-biased compassion, universal compassion. That means that even if someone's difficult and you find them disgusting, you want them to have happiness and the causes of happiness and want them to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Yet you and I feel justified to think in our minds, I hope they lose everything. I hope their stock goes down. And then we applaud and we repost things that sound like this, especially these days. We just contribute to more of the trash, giving more unpeace, giving more violence. We think it's nonviolence. It's violence. What's nonviolence? Abstaining from the 10 non-virtuous activities. I don't abstain from all of the 10 non-virtuous activities. I'm a very violent character. Do you hope that I lose everything? Do I hope that you lose everything? Really? So this is how we contribute to world peace. Not in a fake way, in a way that really, really changes the vibration of everything around us. So the other thing that's going on besides the subjugation of the unpeaceful elements of Tibet Day that we can apply to all of the world and world peace, if only some of the leaders today had that karmic mirror, had the karma condition there to be able to have that very speedy, message be sent to get their minds to just turn quickly to non-harm. But we know the Buddhas don't wash away the negativities of beings, nor do they remove their miseries by their hands. Spiritual realizations aren't transferred. It's by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. And those beings have to be active in terms of having the condition to be taught. This is all logical stuff. This isn't magic. This isn't Harry Potter. This isn't Lord of the Rings, as again Jeffrey Hopkins said. It can sound like it, but at the core of everything that you hear, there is logic, cause, and effect, whether it's at a subtle or a gross level, and the working of dependent origination. And that makes it all possible, this dependent origination. The emptiness of intrinsic existence makes this change possible. So the other great thing going on is it was His Holiness the Dalai Lama's 90th birthday on the Western calendar Sunday. There were so many incredible festivities I rejoice in that went on all over the world, countless, festivities. And then there on the Tibetan calendar a few days before was also the Dalai Lama's birthday. But the point is His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the true wish-fulfilling jewel in our world, has turned 90, and the Buddhists have decided that this is the year of compassion, and His Holiness's birthday will be celebrated throughout the year. And on Sunday was his birthday on the Western calendar. So His Holiness put a message out there. And after I read this message, I just felt so good about what we're doing. And I think that as you hear what he said, and you've probably read it, but as you hear it, you'll hear the steps that we're talking about in here. You'll hear how you would get to the place that His Holiness is talking about. And I'll just read it. So this is a message from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. On the occasion of my 90th birthday, I understand that well-wishers and friends in many places, including Tibetan communities, are gathering for celebrations. I particularly appreciate the fact that many of you are using the occasion to engage in initiatives that highlight the importance of compassion, warm-heartedness, and altruism. I'm just a simple Buddhist monk. I don't normally engage in birthday celebrations. However, since you are organizing events focused on my birthday, I wish to share some thoughts. While it is important to work for material development, it is vital to focus on achieving peace of mind through cultivating a good heart and by being compassionate, not just toward near and dear ones, but toward everyone. Through this, you will contribute to making the world a better place. As for myself, I will continue to focus on my commitments of promoting human values, religious harmony, drawing attention to the ancient Indian wisdom which explains the workings of mind and emotions, and Tibetan culture and heritage, which has so much potential to continue to contribute to the world through its emphasis on peace of mind and compassion. I developed the determination and courage in my daily life through the teachings of the Buddha and Indian masters such as Bodhisattva Shantideva, whose following aspiration I strive to uphold. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you for using this opportunity of my birthday to cultivate peace of mind and compassion. Tasha Delek, and with prayers, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He wrote his name. He signed his signature there. It's an actual letter from His Holiness that they put out on the 5th. So I thought that I'd read that, and you can see how we're trying to develop equanimity. We're trying to do exactly what His Holiness has requested us to do. We're giving His Holiness the Dalai Lama the best birthday present we could possibly give. When we look at what the highest offering there is in the universe that one can make, it's the offering to our teachers. It's the offering of our practice, the offering of our studies. And here His Holiness is focusing on equanimity, non-biased attitude, not holding some close and others far. We're learning how to do this. We're learning how to make our minds, how to change our minds, get peace of mind. It says here that peace of mind, focus on peace of mind through cultivating a good heart. We're learning that compassion equals peace of mind. Compassion equals the highest amount of happiness possible. We're learning this. And this is the gift that His Holiness the Dalai Lama has come to give us. The Nalanda tradition of the Indian masters he's speaking of, like Bodhisattva Shantideva. We begin by saying, oh my gosh, thank goodness that Guru Rinpoche and Acharya, the great abbot Chandrashita, came in the 8th century to Tibet to help, guide the Tibetan tradition in the way that it was, in a way that it would flourish and the Nalanda tradition would flourish. The logic tradition would flourish. The debate tradition would flourish. And we're part of this. We're doing what His Holiness, we're giving His Holiness the gift that He's asked us to give. Really rejoice in that. Rejoice in the fact that you are personally, by listening to teachings on compassion, by listening to the teachings on the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment, and specifically the teachings on great compassion. That's where we are in the book right now. Rejoice in the fact that you're giving His Holiness the greatest gift that you offering that you can give a teacher. And he asked us for it. He asked us for this gift. He's saying, oh, I don't usually celebrate birthdays, but since you're celebrating birthdays, this is what I want. This is the gift. Geshe Dorje Damdu is pointing this out, that he's saying, your gift to me on my birthday is you develop compassion, which is how you become the happiest person in the universe. So your gift to me is to become the happiest person in the universe. The Dalai Lama, this is what realized beings want. They don't want like a Ferrari. They want you to be the happiest person in the universe, and that's the greatest gift you can give them. That's why the gift of practice is the greatest gift, because that's how you become the happiest person in the universe. And that's all they think about, is making you the happiest person in the universe. If all I thought about was a Ferrari and you gave me a Ferrari, I think that was so wonderful. Well, all they think about is making you the happiest person in the universe. If you start becoming that, wow, it's like that. This is logical. This isn't like woo-woo or some weirdo stuff or some, oh, and then he came and waved magic wands and flew through the sky. And if any of these things happen the way they explained it, they happen because very specific causes were created for those results. And nothing just suddenly fell out of, the realm of cause and effect and became chaotic because there was some magic in the air. No, 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 no. Everything is composed of the elements. The elements are not intrinsically existent. Your mind is not intrinsically existent. You're working with all of these materials of things that exist in time and things that exist in space, things that are composed of material parts, that are composed of temporal parts. And those things all rely on causes. Those things are all results, and those things will all become results. That's all. It's just working with the nature of reality, and we just never have before. We've worked with like our own constructed reality, which is wrong, and then we just suffer in samsara over and over and over and over and over again. And the Buddha is the one on the outside of the wheel of life, that thing with the fangs, holding the 12 links and holding like the inner wheel of the 3 poisons, and then the contaminated karmas, and then the 6 realms or 5 realms, and then the 12 links. And then outside that mess, you see Buddha pointing at a moon, pointing at the cessation, pointing at our freedom. He's not in cyclic existence because causes and conditions were created that were not contaminated for him to have uncontaminated happiness. And the causes for suffering were eradicated, so there's an absence of suffering. It can't take place because there's nothing to cause it. Nirvana has no end. Samsara has an end. So samsara has no beginning. Nirvana has a beginning. Just make that beginning happen by having the causes and conditions created in your mind for it to achieve nirvana. Yeah. And we're doing it. We're giving this gift to His Holiness the Dalai Lama of our practice. And I really wanted to emphasize that. So today we have 2 things: this subduing of the kind of evil negative forces in Tibet, celebration of that, of a peace that came over Tibet that allowed for the flourishing of the Dharma. Peace doesn't just happen out of magic. Peace happens out of a conversion of a mind that's unpeaceful to a peaceful mind. So however that took place through cause and effect. And we're celebrating that and trying to contribute to that. So we talked about the 10 non-virtues and abstaining from them. Rinpoche always talked about that. And then if we screw up a little bit, we can engage in the 4 opponent powers. I won't get into the details, but the power of basis, of going for refuge and generating bodhicitta, the power of the regret, the power of the antidote, and the power of a commitment to not engage in things for as long as you can realistically commit to not engaging in them. So we do all of these things to make the world a better place. When we don't do these things and we act in the opposite, we contribute to the crappiness of the world. Yeah, the world's crappy because I'm crappy. So like, don't talk about the world not being great unless you're great. Like, when Jesus Christ the woman was about to be stoned, and he said, the the person who should throw the first rock is the one who's free of sins, and he starts writing sins in sand or something that the people did because it was clairvoyance, and then everyone drops their rocks. Yeah, we need to start dropping our rocks a little bit more. Yeah. We hold them. We're ready. We throw them. We get our friends and we all decide and throw them. We aren't throwing the rocks. We're writing it usually, or we're on the phone like spitting rocks, dividing people, lying, doing stuff like that, doing the stuff that doesn't even begin to get us as a spiritual practitioner. If you're attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. Only people who are attached to this life do that stuff, like me. Yeah, people like me who are attached to this life, who haven't even entered the small scope, do stuff like that. Because if I bought into the small scope 100% and believed in karma and its results 100%, like that last non-virtue where I don't believe in karma and its results. Yeah. Yeah, I don't believe it's really true. If I really believed it was true and wanted to not have like bad things in my future life, then I would absolutely not engage in any of the 10 non-virtuous activities. And I would immediately engage in the 4 opponent powers. This is how we make the world peaceful. And then we study how to make ourselves better and better and better, more peaceful people, more compassionate people, in order to fulfill the wishes of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, the true wish fulfilling jewel in our world. So, what a great letter. What a great motivation. What a great thing that we're doing by studying Lama Tsongkhapa's Foundation of All Good Qualities. It's the roadmap for us to go from where we are, like the person who can't even like get it together around the 10 non-virtues, to a perfect being. So that's the good news is that, the one thing about, misdeeds is that they can be purified. That's the only quality that they have. And that's not really a quality. It just means that you could do something about misdeeds that you've engaged in. And we have all of these things springing up because of previous misdeeds that hurt. So we should probably figure out how to make things, that cause things to hurt. Stop working to make them hurt. Stop having the power to cause me to hurt. So this is the message. We have to start with abstaining from the 10 non-virtuous activities and applying the 4 opponent powers, going for refuge, and recognizing that the Buddha is the teacher, the one who's gone to bliss, and that he or she is our protector, because we're going to die, and then we're going somewhere when we die, because this mind is going to go on. This body, this coarse stuff won't, but the subtle body will, and this mind will. And where is it going to go? Well, that's where Buddha came to tell us the tricks. It's going to go where, you know, your negative karmas, your positive karmas, and what those deeds bring to you follow always close behind, as certain as your shadow. Yeah. And then as we engage in these things, we make the world a worse place. Do we want the world to be better? Then we should start with the small scope and try to really do our best to realize these things in this life, and realize the points of the medium scope, and realize the points of the great scope, because it's in front of us right now, and death will come and nothing can stop it. We don't know when we're going to die. And once we die, what we carry are our virtuous and non-virtues, and our wisdom, our knowledge. And if we do this right, and we connect with emptiness right, and we connect with bodhicitta right, and we can somehow share this with others, it will guarantee our connection in our next life to these teachings. We don't have to worry about like being misguided and not, starting where we left off. We won't have to worry about that. His Holiness the Dalai Lama said that on our deathbed, if we can generate compassion, this bodhicitta mind, we don't have to worry about going to the lower realms. And I just read, if we can work, really come to understand emptiness also, and then we can share it with others, or to the best of our ability come to really, really understand it, discuss it with others. This will ensure that we connect in our next life immediately with a continuity of our learning, and we won't have to worry about starting from scratch and unburying some imprints, a million lifetimes from now, from this lifetime, to try to connect. We want to create continuity. So it's pretty serious stuff that we're engaging in. We laugh and we say, we're not there, but this stuff does work, and we can discover these teachings slowly but surely. And just remember, when we say, like, we can't, even abstain from the 10 non-virtues, it's not until the second bodhisattva ground, like you've seen emptiness a couple times, that you purify the most subtle thing in your mind. It's called the stainless ground, because it's the first time that you purify the most subtle thing in your mind related to the 10 non-virtues. So there's some like tiny triggers in the darkest corner of the afflicted mind that isn't an acquired affliction, that doesn't go away until much later. So also know that about the 10 non-virtuous activities. It doesn't mean that anywhere on the bodhisattva ground they were actively engaging like in these things out of malice. It's not possible. But there's still a kind of innate conception of true existence that causes weirdo stuff to happen in the mind that doesn't completely go away in relation to these 10 non-virtues until the second bodhisattva ground. Just as a note for those who are keeping track of all of the technical details that could fit into 25 of these rooms, probably, if they were in books. So we've got the merit field here. We've got all of the sentient beings here. And we won't have time to probably go through all of the prayers and then give some sort of an explanation. What we'll do is we'll read just for gathering merit's sake, we'll read the prayers as we normally do. We'll read the foundation of all good qualities in English this time only. And then we'll end class. I think my intended objective, the intended objective of tonight's class was to really, get across these qualities that make us a Buddhist practitioner, really. Like we say we're Buddhist, what would make that? Well, looking at the four seals, all composite things are impermanent, all contaminated things are of the nature of suffering. Oh, okay. So that means that if I engage in things that are contaminated, causes that are contaminated, they'll can cause contaminated results. How do I fix that? Well, phenomena are the nature of emptiness and selflessness. So it means that everything's not contaminated. Everything isn't intrinsically contaminated. I can purify things. I can have an opponent force to contamination. I can have an opponent force to the ignorance that causes contamination. Yeah. So the opponent force that we need to generate is the wisdom realizing emptiness. When we look at our biggest problem, we look at our deepest, biggest problem, is that we grasp at things as being intrinsically existent. And from this misconception, we then grasp at things as having some sort of intrinsic attractiveness or intrinsic ugliness, or, just intrinsic existence from a neutral perspective. And that belief in grasping at things that are intrinsically existent as having intrinsic qualities of attractiveness makes us convinced that we should run towards them and get them. And it causes our mind to be disturbed. And the same is true for believing something is intrinsically existent and then intrinsically bad or nasty, and then we push it away because it only makes sense to push away things that are intrinsically bad or nasty. But all of this pushing and pulling and running is all going on with a disturbed mind because it's driven by self-grasping ignorance that views things, phenomena, and persons like myself and you as having an essence, having an intrinsic nature that doesn't exist. Having some sort of, it says, seeing the five skandhas to be empty of this nature. We think that things have a nature that exists, that exists from their own side. We don't see the causes and conditions and everything that comes into being and the labeling, that imputation that's required in order for us to even say chair over there. We just think there's chair over there in an intrinsic way, that has nothing to do with us as a subject, where the Buddha said that there's just causes and conditions, there's dependent origination, and there's mere imputation and dependence upon a collection that serves as a basis of designation. And that collection from its own side is mutually exclusive or contradictory with the designated object. The basis of designation, all those parts over there that I say are a chair, the Buddha says are mutually exclusive with the designated object chair. We're not going to get into what that means exactly, but the Buddha did not say the chair doesn't exist. The chair exists, but the Buddha came to tell us it exists in a mode that we've never, ever, ever, ever even begin to think about. And that's a mode of subjectivity as opposed to objectivity. And if we can begin to slowly loosen our grasping at things as having a mode of existence that they don't, then we don't grasp at them as having a double mode of existence that they don't, meaning first they're truly existent and then they're truly existent, truly attractive things or unattractive things. And then we have this disturbed mind. So there's an unraveling that can take place, but we have to still be able to tally the fact that things exist while we're doing this analysis. We can't fall into nihilism. We have to be able to posit that these things exist. They just don't exist objectively. And this allows us to not, to be right in the middle, to not have to, be in an absolutism or extreme of nihilism, by being able to see the dependent origination, being able to see the dependence and be able to see the origination, the prachika samuppada, prachika, dependence, and the origination, the samuppada, the prachika, showing the dependence that defeats the absolutism, and samuppada, which shows there's an arising, dependent arising. This arising defeats the idea of nihilism. Very fine line we're trying to learn about. And the Buddha was so kind to be able to be patient and give it to us in so many different ways through so many different tenets of the Vaibhashika, Sautrantika, Chittamantra, and Madhyamaka tenet systems in order for us to climb the staircase to the final view of emptiness, to understand what the heck it means that things exist. Things don't objectively exist. Things objectively exist. Things are empty of objective existence. But that non-finding in the ultimate analysis doesn't tell you they're subjectively existent. Only the conventional analysis comes to figure out that things are subjectively existent. And even emptiness is the conventional existence of emptiness. Yeah, weird, right? The emptiness of emptiness is the ultimate existence of is the ultimate reality of emptiness, because emptiness is empty of intrinsic existence. So it's not all that easy. Doesn't mean that there's no self here. Buddha said there's no self, don't worry. No, the Buddha said there is a self. There's just not a self that has a mode of existence the way you think. And the way you think about yourself is wrong, but you're here. You're here. I'm here. Trees are here. Microphones are here. The way they're here, we just don't know. We apprehend them in a way that isn't true because they appear to us in a way that isn't true. Even our eyeballs see things to be intrinsically existent. They appear that way. Even our ears hear things and they appear to our ears, it sounds weird, to be intrinsically existent. Everything around us, all of our sensory intake is telling us that things intrinsically exist. They appear that way, and then we apprehend them. We just say, okay, uncle, of course, I believe this. Why wouldn't I believe this? And the Buddha came to say that like things that are so naturally the way you think they are, they aren't at all. You're wrong. You believe in a mode of existence that's not possible, that would make cars not drive. Yeah. So here it is, the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge that explicitly teaches emptiness, the non-affirming negative that Lama Tsongkhapa insists that we take the medicine of to make our minds at peace. And then implicitly within it, we see the teaching on the 5 paths of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, and no more learning. Okay. So again, imagine we're at Rajagriha Vulture Peak Mountain, and you imagine Buddha Shakyamuni's there. He goes into meditative equipoise and seeing emptiness directly, and then he's showing this quality of being able to also operate while having a direct perception of emptiness that only a Buddha can do. And he blesses Venerable Shariputra and Lord Chenrezig's minds to become like his puppets, to be able to say what he would like them to say about the emptiness of intrinsic existence, what he would like them to say that becomes known as the second turning of the wheel of Dharma at Vulture Peak Mountain in Rajagriha. So imagine we're there, imagine all sentient beings who are here are witnessing that. And we'll read this, we'll just go right through the prayers, and then we're going to do something weird. I'm sorry, I'm strange sometimes. We'll do the concluding mandala offering and dedication prayers. We're just going to we won't do the requests for teaching. We'll just conclude the mandala offering and then do dedications. So just be prayers straight through. And I appreciate all of your patience, and I hope that this has been helpful for you. It's been extremely helpful for me. What? How come what? What's going on? Lorinda's asking a question. Oh, okay. All right. So, the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajaparamita, saw in this way, saw the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice a profound Prajaparamita addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice a profound Prajaparamita should see in this way, seeing the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness also is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics, there is no birth and no cessation, there is no impurity and no purity, there is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no eye, dhatu, no mind, dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind, consciousness, dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance, up to old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. So here we see, whether you like it or not, there's nothing in the universe, not the Four Noble Truths, not the Buddha, not your mind, not my mind, not Buddha nature, that intrinsically exists. Not even nirvana that intrinsically exists. So this is the full story that the Buddha comes to give at the second turning of the wheel of Dharma. And just ad nauseum, there's not this, even though you think there is, even though it feels and everything appears like your mind appears, the way you discriminate things appear, mountains appear, though even though all this stuff appears to you to be intrinsically existent and you apprehend them in that way, you won't find that intrinsic existence, and you will come to a no, a void, a zero in relation to intrinsic existence. And that's the ultimate analysis. That's what ultimate analysis leads you to. This Heart Sutra is a result of ultimate analysis, this finding, this non-finding that you sit with, this space-like emptiness, this non-affirming negative that Lama Tsongkhapa insists that we take, of this non-affirming negative of emptiness that we put our minds in, we directly realize, and our mind becomes exactly the aspect of one taste with that emptiness, with that non-finding, with the emptiness of the non-finding, really, the emptiness of the realization of the non-finding. This is the peace. All the Buddhas of the three times by means of Prajaparamita fully awakened to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. There's never been a Buddha in the history of Buddhas, which is beginningless, right? There's never been a Buddha that didn't realize this non-affirming negative. And because in order to become a Buddha, the only liberating path is the wisdom realizing emptiness. So all the Buddhas of the three times, the Buddhas of the past, the Buddhas of the present, and the Buddhas to come, like you and me, we need to rely upon the perfection of wisdom. What is that? The wisdom that realizes emptiness, the wisdom that realizes that eyes and ears and noses and tongues are empty of intrinsic existence. There isn't anything in the universe that's not empty of intrinsic existence. This is the medicine that we need to realize. And it doesn't mean that things don't exist. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, referring to the path of accumulation, the mantra of great insight, referring to the path of preparation, the unsurpassed mantra, referring to the path of seeing, the unequaled mantra, referring to the path of meditation, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as truth since there is no deception, referring to the path of no more learning. So we see encoded within this, not only in the mantra, but in some of the words and the phrasings, we find the five paths. And because of the kindness of Namgyal Khensur Geshe Wangdak Rinpoche and the commentary had by Jayang Gapi Lodru, the first textbook writer of Losa Ling, Drepung Losa Ling, we're able to know facts like this. So it says the Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way: Teata Om Gate Gate Para Gate Parasangate Bodhisoha. Teata Om. Om has three syllables: A U Ma. Body, speech, mind. The Buddha's body, speech, and mind are pure. My body, speech, and mind are not pure. How do I purify my body, speech, and mind? By going through Gate, path of accumulation, Gate, path of preparation, Paragate, path of seeing, Parasangati, path of meditation, and I will then achieve Bodhisoha, the path of no more learning. It's so clear. I can transform this. I have proliferating Buddha nature. I have maturing Buddha nature. How do I mature? Gate, Paragate, Parasangate. What will maturity look like? Bodhisoha. Our teachers are so kind, are they not? To explain this stuff. It's not magic and warlocks and wardrobes and energy. It's this. This is the medicine. It just brings goosebumps. Just brings my hair up. Not because I want to sound like the beginning of Acharya Chandrakirti's text, because it does. It makes me feel like, oh my gosh, this is so profound. And we can just keep looking further and further and further into it. Yeah. Thus, Shariputra. So, Teata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangate Bodhisoha. This is how the Prajnaparamita mantra is said. These are the stages that a bodhisattva will go through to realize emptiness conceptually and then directly realize it again and again and again, whilst practicing the ripening paths to become bodhisoha, to go from dirty oma hom, dirty body, speech, and mind, auma, to clean body, speech, and mind. Go from a dirty diamond to bodhisoha, a perfectly clean diamond. Why? How? By removing the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience through the pathways of Gate, path of accumulation, Gate, path of preparation, Paragate, path of seeing, Parasamgate, path of meditation. You will achieve Bodhisoha. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, path of accumulation, the mantra of great insight, path of preparation, the unsurpassed mantra, the path of seeing, the unequaled mantra, the path of meditation, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as truth, since there's no deception. Calms all suffering, Bodhisoha. Buddhahood calms all suffering for me, and then you too, because I fulfill your needs and all sentient beings' needs when I become a Buddha, because all sentient beings need a Buddha so that they can discover Bodhisoha. And they can go from ma, om ahom, dirty one, to pure body, speech, and mind of Bodhisoha. Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas were rejoiced when the Blessed One had said this. Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. And then the shortest Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. This is a pretty short one compared to 100,000 verses, but the shortest is up. And I promised Vic Kennick, who's a Sanskrit scholar, one of Jeffrey Hopkins' students, that I would never say It's a short a not, a no, a non-affirm, a negative, an a. Okay. Hopefully I didn't mispronounce it. Because I want to be like, emptiness. Kaladio bene jobama engushe de junga yid de jentu baba lama yid shinzi ni song control solo jatelo aga samara jasandra samara bega samara jasandra samara. Aga samara jasandra samara beti adam gati gati paragati parasangati buddhizo baba gonja sanji gai demi doji je logo doji mebo doji shewa doji dagi baji medu bishi danji je dinga ye so agirin doji je shewa da medu ne vejan dan wada tomba junjin bon zon zon doji daji de jan den da de le o. So we'll do the prayer of refuge in bodhicitta in English as well as Tibetan. Sanje jadan zaji janan la chanjo badu dagi jazu ji dagi ji she ji bezonan ji jala benji sanje duba sho sanje jadan zaji janan la chanjo badu dagi jazu ji dagi ji she ji bezonan ji jala benji sanje duba sho sanje jadan zaji janan la chanjo badu dagi jazu ji Dagi Juji Jibe Zananji Dula Benji Zanji Jiba Jog. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Now we'll recite the foundation of all good qualities, and then we'll go right to the dedication. And there's a dedication, verse 14, of course, that we all know by heart, right? When we all memorize this, right? Because Rinpoche asked us to, remember? Okay. The foundation of all good qualities, or the source of all my good, by Lama Tsongkhapa, who was so kind to be able to help us to understand the Lam Rim, and because of Lama Atisha, Lord Atisha, who is so kind to be able to show us how to take the Nalanda teachings, the Nalanda tradition, and put it into an order that we could actually practice, called the Teachings for Beings of Three Capacities, Small, Medium, and Great. So kind. Going back to the great abbot Chandrashita and Guru Rinpoche, who were so kind, for bringing the Nalanda tradition and Tantra to Tibet, and then going back to Buddha Shakyamuni, who was so kind to come to our world to teach us exactly what we need to do to discover what he did. Source of all my good, the Yunten Shijoma. The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord, my Lord. My Lord. I've been reading Harry Potter and having to do the Hagrid accent. My Lord. Source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow him with all my strength and reverence. Bless me first to realize that the excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I've died, the things I've done, the white or the black, and what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrongs of the many wrongs we do, and try to carry out each and every good of the many, that we may. Bless me to receive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They can't be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality the essence of my practice, to make the pratamoksha vows the essence of my practice. They are the root of Buddha's teaching. I have slipped and fallen into the sea of this suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, every one my own mother, has fallen into. Grant me then to practice the wish for enlightenment, to take on myself the task of freeing them all. Bless me to see clearly that the wish itself is not enough, for if I'm not well trained in the three moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the Bodhisattva vows. Grant that I may quickly gain the path where quietude and insight join together, one which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects, the other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. Grant that once I practice well the path shared and become a vessel that is worthy, I enter with perfect ease the way of the diamond. Holy, highest of all ways, holiest door for the come inside for the fortunate and good. Bless me to know with genuine certainty that when I've entered thus, the cause that gives me both the high attainments is to keep my pledges and my vows most pure. Grant me then to always keep them, even at the cost of my life. Bless me next to realize, as well as I can, the crucial points of both the steps, the essence of the secret ways. Grant me then to practice as the holy ones have spoken, putting all my effort in and never leaving off the practice of the 4 times. Highest that there is, bless me, grant me that the spiritual friend who shows me this good road, all my true companions in this quest, live long and fruitful lives. May you all live long and fruitful lives, all my Dharma brothers and sisters. I will need all of you. We're so interdependent. We need each other so much. May you all live long and fruitful lives. We need our teachers so much. May our teachers live long and fruitful lives so that in this life, we aren't separated from those circumstances that will allow us to move closer to Buddhahood. And bless and grant me that the reign of obstacles, things without me, inside me or outside me, that could stop me now, stop and end forever. And now in my future lives, I don't want to be separated from good friends like you, and I don't want to be separated from the teacher who's the source of all my good. So in all my lives, may I never live apart from my perfect lamas. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond. Yeah. Concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. Oh, we have so much to say about the Dharma because of Khensur Geshe Wangdak's kindness. And I know all of you do too. This is why I'm willing to just kind of cruise through all of these more complicated topics, because I know that you're vessels, not because of clairvoyance, but because of knowing that you've had such qualified teachers who've said this stuff, and you have these imprints in your mind like me, and you're a similar lot as me, as Bodhisattva Shantideva says in the beginning of the Bodhicharya Avatar, is like, these words are helpful for me, and if you're like me, maybe they'll help you too. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I've collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Zandrapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Any mistakes that I've made with all of this talking that I've done, I apologize. I can't think of anything that I said which was incorrect, but it's very easy to misspeak when you're just speaking. So if I made some mistake, may it erase out of your mind, because we know that it's so important to have the wisdom arisen from hearing, contemplation, and meditation. So it starts with the wisdom arisen from hearing. And we need accurate information, complete information, and we need systematic studies, as Geshe Dorje Damdula says. So if I give you any inaccurate information, you are not analyzing something that will bring you to a place you can meditate and then become a Buddha with. So I don't think I've supplied you with any misinformation. But if I did by error, may it be purified in your mind, and may the mistake of speaking mindlessly or without really, with good conscientiousness, be purified with this mantra of Vajrasattva. Om Benzo Zada Zamaya Manubalaya Benzo Zada Zeno Bajita Deda Me Baba Zoto Gaya Me Baba Zobo Gaya Me Baba Nurade Me Baba Zava Ziri Me Brajazava Gaman Ziji Me Gitam Shion Guru Ma Bhagavan Savadada Gata Benzo Mame Monko Benzo Baba Mahazamaya Zava Om Ve. And just a real-time example, if I had made a mistake in presenting the Dharma, this harms the Dharma, this harms the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, this harms the Dharma, this harms sentient beings if I had made a mistake in saying the Dharma. So we start with the power of the basis in relation to the 4 opponent powers. Power of the basis is going for refuge and generating bodhicitta. We've done something negative in relation to sentient beings. If I had done something negative in relation to sentient beings by giving misinformation, and done something negative in relation to the Dharma by saying the Dharma wrong. So First, I would go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha and generate bodhicitta. And the refuge prayer we do, I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections. May I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. This is a special refuge prayer, a Mahayana refuge prayer, Lord Atisha's refuge prayer that combines refuge and bodhicitta. And then I would say, I really regret having done what I've done. I really, if I had, if I did, I regret it. And I would say it like this: in my past lives, I've done these things. If I did them, I regret them. And then I would apply an opponent. So that's what I just did. I just did the Vajrasattva mantra. So this would be applying the antidote, the third step. So first we have the power of basis, then the power of regret. I wish I hadn't done this. And then the power of applying an antidote. Om Benzasato Samayama Nopalaya, the Vajrasattva mantra. And then I would say, I won't do this again until next Thursday. That's an easy one to, that's a joke, but you get what I'm saying. You make some sort of realistic commitment that that you can do, you can complete. And this leaves an imprint in your mind once you've successfully completed it. That's like a rejoicing of your mind in doing good things. So just a little like lifetime example of how you would, why I just did something so weird where I recited some like Sanskrit Tibetan thing and thought that it was going to make a purification. It goes right back to the four opponent powers, and this is how you use the four opponent powers. And if you just said, like, in a real life example, I just said something that's not true, you firmly face and avert it, as Geshe Langri says in the 8 verses for training the mind. As soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering me, endangering others, may I firmly face and avert it. And if you do it, carry it out, even past this risal, then this is where the purification of the four opponent powers comes into place. And may we always be purified, be protected by Paul the Lama. Jorama, Jorama, Jojo, Ramo, Tunjo, Kalarachamo, Ramo, Achidachi, Tunjo. And may the world be pacified by the 3 wrathful protectors who know the subtle working of dependent origination and cause and effect. Om Vajapani Haya Gariva Garuda Om Ve. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri, and likewise Samanta Bhaddha as well, with whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors to first 3 times. I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that is not rising grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase forevermore. Through this virtuous action, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead every being without exception into that enlightened state. In all my lives, may I never separate from my perfect gurus. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond in the heavenly realm of Tibet, surrounded by a chain of snow mountains. You are the source of all benefit and help for beings, all powerful. Chen Rezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara's ends. And may we always meet with our teachers, as it says, in all my lives, may I never be separated from my perfect lamas. And this is why I wrote this. A complex yogi poses as a simple monk. Homage to Khensur Geshe Wangdak Rinpoche, our precious spiritual friend who is inseparable from Aryatara. I fully prostrate, covering as many atoms of the earth as possible to your pure body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. It's said, as many atoms of the earth, I think in the Abhidharma, it says, as many atoms of the earth as your body can cover when you're making prostrations is how many times you'll be a world emperor. And that's how you could really help a lot of people, I guess, if you're doing it for the sake of helping others. So there are just more stuff. I offer to you drinking water, bathing water, flowers, incense, candles, scented water, food, and music purified by Om, 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 Om. The rarity of having 1 million wish-fulfilling gems is a common occurrence compared to meeting with a holy teacher like you, who placed the complete path to Buddhahood in our childlike hands. Just like Lord Atisha, who came to Tibet with a lamp to dispel the darkness of ignorance, you, kind abbot, arrived in the West with a lineage purer than a diamond and begged us never to be satisfied with partial instructions. The teachings of the extensive deeds and profound view lineages flowed from your lips like nectar for our ears that elucidated the teachings for beings of 3 capacities. Now that sound has stopped. All composite things are impermanent. You told us all your teachers passed away, understood this sadness, and entreated us to continue our studies. The Buddha does not wash away the negativities of beings, nor does he remove their miseries by his hands. His spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It is by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. We are not prepared to take this difficult journey to the highest goodness of Buddhahood without your continued guidance. There it is. In all my lives, may I never be separated from my perfect lamas. The sadness in our hearts would be too overwhelming. May you swiftly return to this world and take care of us in all our lives, wherever we may be, never leaving our hearts and crowns. May all sentient beings perfectly realize renunciation. The renunciation found in the small scope is renouncing the causes of the lower realms of cyclic existence. The renunciation found in the medium scope is renouncing all of cyclic existence. The bodhicitta is wanting to free all sentient beings from cyclic existence, and the correct view of emptiness is the liberating path that allows all of it to work. May all sentient beings perfectly realize renunciation, bodhicitta, which is the great scope, looking at the Lamrim, and the correct view of emptiness so they know who you really are. Really, I encourage all of you, just keep studying. Don't be satisfied with partial instructions. And it really, really will just become so exciting when you find these things that you can discover and how quickly your mind can change with the most complete information, accurate information, and systematic studies, as the most venerable Geshe Dorje Damdula says. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Let's all try not to be jerks, as Gen Hopkins would say.